What is going on, my fellow geeks?
3 movies with elves and a guy with a white beard.
Not a lot of people accept it as canon.
2022 will be the year of Star Wars.
Well, I have more than just one piece of geek news.
I have been Isaac Hunter.
Which is like high culture, but better.
Hello, fellow geeks, and welcome back to Raving Geeks, the weekly pop culture podcast where we talk about all things geeky and geek culture, which is like high culture, but better. My name is Hope Goodearl, host of the Raving Geeks podcast, along with my co-host who will introduce himself in a minute with our question of the week. If you're just joining us for the first time and you like this episode, you can check out our other episodes at cm-life.com and any other place you listen to podcasts like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Just search Central Michigan Life Podcasts, Raving Geeks. So this is going to be our final episode of this season, this semester, and with coming up to our semester break, and of course Christmas, we wanted to do a Christmas-themed episode, and specifically talk about the tradition movies like the Santa Claus, and other like holiday or Christmas traditional movies that you watch around the time. But first, Carter, my question for you this week is, what is your favorite Christmas carol?
Oh, my favorite Christmas carol? Probably, well, in singing terms, it's Silent Night, but I love Carol of the Bells too. Just all the remixes that they put on Carol of the Bells is great.
Yeah. I can't remember if it's Mannheim Steamroller or Trans-Siberian Orchestra that has my favorite version of Carol of the Bells. But that one is a good one. My favorite Christmas carol, some people are probably gonna groan, including my dad, but it has to be I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas. It's just fun and kooky, and I don't know, like it's one of those that I don't think there was one Christmas season that like I hadn't heard on the radio or anything, and it finally happened like 2 days before Christmas, and I was like, yep, it's Christmas. That's how I know. But yeah, so we would love to know what y'all's favorite Christmas carols are or music for this time of year. So you can comment wherever you're listening from. But so as always, we like to start off our show with some geek news. So Carter, what have you got for us?
I don't have as much as usual, but some pretty big news has been happening. Dune Part 2 just wrapped filming, which is pretty exciting. So it'll deliver on its November premiere date. Jackie Chan confirmed that he's in talks to star Rush Hour 4, which I thought is fun. I've never actually seen the Rush Hour movies, but I hear they're really, really good comedies. So I'm definitely going to watch the first 3 to prepare for that. And my big news of the week is that Mike Flanagan actually left Netflix recently and joined a 10-year partnership with Amazon Prime. And they're going to be adapting Stephen King's The Dark Tower, which is his fantasy horror series. And it's going to run for at least 5 seasons. So while I am sad that Netflix continues to mismanage their products and directors and everybody they choose to work with, that's a whole nother rant for another day. I'm glad Mike Flanagan's still getting projects out there, and he's going to go work for Amazon Prime for about 10 years. So, I mean, I have both streaming services, so it works out for me either way. Hope, what about you?
So I've got a little bit of news. So first off, in the almost a year countdown until the first part of the Wicked movies come out, because that is next year in December around Christmas, we have new casting updates that I'm really excited about. So we have Marissa Bode, who's going to make her feature film debut as Nessa Rose, Elphaba's sister. This actress does use a wheelchair, which I think is amazing that they found an actual person who uses a wheelchair to represent Nessa Rose, who does use a wheelchair as well, instead of using an able-bodied person who doesn't use a wheelchair and just gets to pretend like they do. I think it's great representation. So we also have Bowen Yang and Browen James also join as Fanny and Shen Shen, classmates of Alphaba and Glinda and Nessa Rose at Shiz University. Kayala Settle is coming in as Miss Coddle, Aaron Toe as Averick, and Colin Michael Carmichael as Professor Nicodick. And so previously announced, just to remind everyone, is Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo as Glinda and Alphaba. But of course, we also need to know who our Fiero is going to be. And so Bridgerton actor Jonathan Bailey is coming in to play Fiero, the love interest of both Glinda and Alphaba. And Everything Everywhere All at Once star Michelle Yeoh will be playing the role of Madame Morrible. And then Broadway actor Ethan Slater, known best for SpongeBob SquarePants the musical, will be portraying Bach, who is an interesting character all on his own. And then officially, because this was just rumors before, Jeff Goldblum has been cast officially as the Wizard, which means that the Wizard is going to be awesome, and we're going to try not to hate the Wizard, even though we do hate the Wizard. There's complications with that, but you know. And then I just realized I was wrong in really looking at my notes. We're not on a year countdown. I apologize to everyone to get their hopes up. It's apparently Christmas 2024. I forgot that it got pushed back a year since they split it into 2 parts. But so then we've also got, don't go away. We've got news for The Boys season 4. Huey's mom has been cast as Rosemary DeWitt, I believe, as Huey's mom. So I think that's gonna be really interesting, considering Huey's dad didn't really do much in season 1. But yeah, Ginny and Georgia season 2 is going to premiere on January 5th on Netflix. Also on Netflix in next year is March 16th, Shadow and Bone season 2. We just got the teaser trailer for that, as well as some promotional pictures. Just further confirming things that I have been guessing on what the plot is going to be. Also on Netflix, Taylor Kitsch is going to lead a Netflix Western from Peter Berg and Eric Newman. It's called American Primeval, which is a raw, adventurous exploration of the birth of the American West, the violent collisions of cultures, religions, and communities as men and women fight and die for control of this new world, for a land they truly believe is their destiny. So that's going to be super interesting. I'm looking forward to that one. And then we got news on the new Mean Girls movie that is coming out. We have Angry Rice from Mayor of Easttown is going to star as Katie Heron, who was originally played by Lindsay Lohan. Moana star Aluli Cravalho is going to be playing Janice. Renee Rapp is reprising her Broadway role of Regina George, originally by Rachel McAdams. I was about to say Amy Adams, and I was like, that's not right. And then we've got breakout Broadway star Jaquel Spivey as 2K gay to function Damien. So I find that super fun. And then in other news, Reese Witherspoon is set to reprise her role as the ambitious go-getter Tracy Flick in the sequel to the Oscar-nominated political comedy Election, and this the sequel is titled Tracy Flick Can't Win. And then I have a couple more things. So the new Netflix series Kaleidoscope, that bunch of trailers have been dropping for that one. From all the stars in it. Netflix says that you can watch the episodes in any order, and it affects how you view the story. And they actually suggest that you watch it in any order that you want to create some dialogue around it, which I find that super interesting. And then let's see here. One more bit of news before I want to send a congratulations out. Actually, two more pieces of news. One I'm not too happy about. Both I'm not happy about, but one I could go into a great amount of detail as to why I'm not happy. But DC Warner Brothers Flash has been moved up a week as to when it is being released, because Warner Brothers thinks it's still a great idea to cast Ezra Miller in anything and have his movie come out. But yeah, so June 16th instead of June 23rd is when Flash is coming out. Yeah, that one's not a... Warner Brothers just needs to get their crap together. Because they're not going to make any money on that movie. But in Drum Corps international news, I am sad to report that Santa Clara Vanguard from World Class, and then Legends and Shadow from Open Class have all stated that they will not be part of the 2023 tour, mostly due to budgeting things. Pandemic hit Drum Corps really hard. And honestly, Santa Clara Vanguard is like one of my favorites in World Class. Legends is from Michigan, over on the west side of the state. And they're not running, and so they're one of my favorites for Open Class. So it's going to be really interesting not having those two there, especially Santa Clara Vanguard. But I wish them all the best of luck, as well as all of the performers hoping to audition for those groups. But then my final well wishes are to, right now, just 4 of our members of the Chippewa football team that declared for the NFL draft. We have Dante Kent, Carlos Carrier, Joel Wilson, and Lou Nichols. I wish you guys all the best of luck for the NFL draft. I do hope that you are like Gedeke and Fireman last year, who did get drafted, or even, Khalil Pimpleton is making his mark on the New York Giants right now, and we've got other previous CMU football members that are making their mark on NFL history. So I wish them all the best of luck. Woo, that was a lot. I apologize, but we got a little bit pent up there for being a little bit delayed. But yeah, so our geek topic this week, if you're watching on YouTube, you could see our backgrounds are Christmas themed. As I stated with our question of the week, as well as a little bit of preview beforehand, that we wanted to talk Christmas. Specifically, we were going to talk about the new TV series, The Santa Clauses, which is a continuation from the Santa Claus movies starring Tim Allen, and finals got in the way. So I was able to watch a couple, and I'm going to have Carter ask me questions on what he thinks the show is about. Sorry, lost words. Finals, writing papers. We'll do that to you. So Carter, what questions do you have from the previous 3 movies that you hoped are addressed in the Santa Clauses?
Well, I have very limited knowledge about the first 3 movies. I watched them growing up as a kid, but didn't really care for them, so I didn't really install them in my memory log. But from what I remember, it ended off with Jack Frost kind of going off on his own thing. Like, how long does it pick off from?
So the third movie, Mr. and Mrs. Claus, their son, Buddy, who in the show is called Cal, because he is Buddy Calvin. I can't remember what, I think it's Buddy Calvin Claus, I think. I feel like I'm missing a name. But he's called Cal, and the joke is because do you know how many elves are named Buddy?
Yeah.
And they so Buddy is about, I don't think fully a year old at the end of the third movie, because for the most part she was pregnant with him during the entire third movie. But then he's now, I want to say 16. And then his sister, who they just introduced this year, is 14 maybe. So it's been about 16, 15, 16 years.
Mhm.
Scott has been, Tim Allen right here, has been Santa Claus now for about 30 years, is what they keep telling. So yeah, you got a little bit of a time gap, but what other questions have you got?
What's like the main story? Like, what's the big premise?
So as I said, Scott Calvin has been Santa Claus for about 30 years now, and there are some issues that are coming with being Santa for 30 years. He still loves being Santa, but as our world changes, like with the access to a lot of same day delivery stuff and everything, like it's really hard to keep the Christmas spirit going, which leads into the Santa Claus magic. And because Scott Calvin is growing older, he, even though, you know, Santa looks the same all the time, his magic is also dwindling slightly. So they are, instead of doing, you know, go until someone scares him off a roof and he dies, like they did in the first movie, which is how Scott Calvin becomes Santa Claus. There is a new clause in the Santa Claus clauses that says that a Santa Claus can choose to retire, as long as he finds a successor to take his spot. So he chooses a successor. I will say the trailers are a bit misleading because it shows a female being the one to cause all the chaos. It is not her. She is the Italian Christmas witch, or like the lore of the Christmas witch from Italy. I do not remember her name, but she is amazing. And she's basically like Santa. She's just a witch instead, because yeah, Santa gives coal to all the kids that were bad, and all the toys and goodies to the kids that were good. And that's what she does too. But she makes the joke that back in her day, it was actually better to be a naughty kid because coal was so expensive and you needed coal to heat your houses. So the kids who got coal benefited more than the kids who got toys because, hey, here's some free coal we can use to heat our house. But yeah, so about the third or fourth episode in, Peyton Manning, if you're a fan of him, I am not, but it was kind of comical how Santa interacted with Peyton Manning to be as in an interview for Santa Claus. But yeah, he finds someone who he thinks is good, and he leaves to go back to Chicago, and his family starts a normal life, as normal as you can be for living in the North Pole for your entire life. But yeah, we get Charlie back from one episode where Scott tries to go and be like, "Hey Charlie, you should take over being Santa." And Charlie's like, I've met my half siblings, and North Pole is not a great place to raise children, Dad. So no, thank you." He's like, "I would, but no, I'm not raising my two sons there."
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so we're getting to the point of like where I left off was the big mystery of who's coming, who's the him that has to go get help to save the North Pole from the supposed replacement to save the Christmas spirit.
Okay. Is everybody turning like good performances? Like nobody's phoning it in?
Yeah, for the most part, Buddy is Cal is an interesting character, but also having only ever dealt with elves and his sister, he has not quite the same social skills as a normal teenager would. But he still has, when they get to the normal world and they go back to the school that Carol was principal at, he finds a girl that he thinks is beautiful and is the typical like teenage boy who has a crush and he's never had a crush before. But it's adorable and it's not quite secondhand embarrassment. There's a little bit, but for the most part, it's more adorable than anything. Um, and then honestly, I love Sandra, who's the sister, and the fact that she always has so many animals. So you know the trope of like an assassin just continuously pulling out weapons, and you're like, where the heck was this on your body?
Mm-hmm.
That is
Yeah.
her with small animals. Like
Okay.
all of a sudden she has a bunny and a turtle, and then Scott just goes, I don't even want to know if there are any more animals in your coat. And you're like, where did you even put these things?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it a good looking show? Is like the production, is the budget there? Like for example, like there are some scenes in Enchanted 2 that look that's green screen, Does it like look good?
Yeah, it still looks good. They definitely kept up the sets from the original movies, which I think is great. They added a little bit more to give you more of like what the living space looks like
Mhm.
for the Claus family in the North Pole. Like there's a little bit more of the behind the scenes versus the workshop that we saw in the other movies. So like I said, the living quarters, the head elf um office area, um into the like scenery that is the North Pole. I can't remember what the woods is called, but there's a magical wood that is living and changes its location. Um and let's see. I mean, oh, they're still back at the normal school. The one thing I will say is there was a couple scenes where they jumped time a bit and it was a little confusing
Mhm.
because it went from, oh, it's cold to, oh, look, it's summer, it's Memorial Day, back to, oh, look, it's Christmas time. And we're like, wait, you did not put anything in there that said, hey, we're jumping time. Like,
Okay.
it was just there. Um, but yeah, it's still, I mean, the other thing is they are never consistent with how Santa Claus looks.
Mhm.
But that's been all of the movies. And I think also just like who's in charge of costuming and makeup design.
Mhm.
Because, you know, Tim Allen does not have the white hair and white beard that we get to see.
Mhm.
But they do a good job of making it similar at least, but also making it be like, hey, no, there's been time passage, so not everything is going to be exact.
Okay. Are there any character changes? Does anybody have a major change in the character arc at all
Um,
so far,
so
at
far,
least?
no. We it was already like exposed that Bernard was coming back, the head elf from the first two movies. Um, but they are supposed to explain like why he disappeared, and they also don't try to cover up the fact that the actor has also aged.
Hmm.
Um, because Bernard is supposed to be quite a few thousand years old at this point. Because I think he was just under 1,000 or something in the first movie.
Mhm.
So, um, yeah. So far, it's been It's been pretty consistent, which is really nice, especially for a movie that has time jumped. Because like I know other franchises, like with Harry Potter, the Cursed Child, nobody in the fandom accepts it as canon or anything to do with, you know, Harry Potter. Even though J.K. Rowling is like, no, this is Harry Potter. This is what happens. We're all like, no, it's not. Are you kidding me? Like, some of these things are plausible, but that thing would not happen, and that thing. But Santa Claus is very much like, yes, this is how it would work. This is keeping up with everything. So, yeah, it's been good.
Are you excited to continue the TV series?
Yes,
Like it leaves off like on a good note each episode to keep you invested.
yeah, so the last episode, that I finished, was the cliffhanger of who is this mysterious gloved hand that is on Scott Calvin's shoulder. I have a theory as to who takes over the role of Santa Claus, which, so right now they have, oh my gosh, I can't remember his name. Um, Cal Penn is acting as the current Santa Claus, and I like that they made it a biopic character, to show that it can be anyone, but also it's not what you think. And so the way that I think that they're gonna go is going to change some roles as we see them, like gender roles, which I think will be interesting, if I'm correct. But yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. Um, right now, also, elves are actually disappearing. Like, you have no idea where they're going, what's happening to them. But that's also part of the Christmas magic. As it's running out and going away, you're like, so the elves are connected to the magic, which makes sense. But where are they going? Will they come back? Um, yeah. So the North Pole is at stake, not just um Christmas itself. It's the whole North Pole, which I find really cool that they made the North Pole essentially its own character too. That is just as important as the elves, as Santa Claus, as um yeah. And I also like that they brought in the fact that Mrs. Claus is virtually the same in every representation you see of her. So like if you get a cookie jar and it has Mrs. Claus on it, it's gonna be the little old lady with the little round glasses and little white bun and kind of that old homey looking old lady. And they kind of bring in the question of like, okay, but why? Why can't Mrs. Claus be her own person? Why doesn't she have a first name? And I find that super interesting because they did make the whole second movie about the fact that Santa Claus, in order to stay Santa Claus, needs a Mrs. Claus. That's the Mrs. Claus that is Mrs. Claus. Is one of the clauses of being Santa. Um, they didn't fully explain it, but I think that's also going to go into it a little bit more. Um, but yeah, I think they're definitely answering questions. Because that was part of the reason this show was made. Tim Allen said he was like, I have questions from doing these. Like, how does that work? That doesn't make sense right now. And so the whole point of the show was to answer the questions.
Okay.
And so things like, how does Santa change? And, so they're addressing that. How does Santa change? Well, besides Santa dying on Christmas and someone else putting on the coat, you've also got, the retirement clause or, and then, yeah. So I think it's really cool how they've been doing things so far. And I'm super excited for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I do say for me that the Santa Claus movies as well as this show are a big part of my Christmas tradition. But Carter, what else is part of the Christmas tradition? How do you keep the Christmas spirit alive and the Christmas magic alive for you in your life?
In my life, well, me and my parents and my brother always loved to put up a Christmas tree. We always loved putting Christmas decorations on the Christmas tree while watching Christmas movies such as Christmas Vacation and Christmas Story. I mean, we loved watching movies around the holidays. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them was a huge Christmas movie for us. I think we saw it in November when it came out around Christmas, so it just became a Christmas tradition for us at that point. We always loved going to the Christmas Eve service at our church that we used to go to. Loved making snow forts and snowball fights. And my mom actually used to take me and my brother to an elementary school where they had this giant hill. It was so big. It was like as tall. I don't even know how tall it is, but it was such a big hill, and it would take you like a minute to go down it on a sled. It was the most fun thing that she would bring us to during the winter time. And she always make hot cocoa for us after me and Reese. My brother would plow the driveway for my dad and my mom when they didn't feel like doing it, and we do it to get like hot chocolate. And there's a lot of Christmas memories that go into just remembering. And this year it's been a little bit weird since this is like the first time I've done the holidays kind of away from home. So I actually went out and bought like I don't know if it'll show up, but I got like a little Christmas tree. It's not gonna show. Oh well, it kind of shows up, but I got like a little Super Mario Christmas tree for my room because I miss having Christmas decorations up. So I went and bought that off of GameStop and put that up in my room. What about you, Hope?
So we just started this kind of last year, and I don't know how often it'll continue. But because my nieces are getting a little bit older, but they're still kids, we went to the Christmas lights or the night lights thing at the Detroit Zoo. And honestly, that was a lot of fun. And that was the first time we actually saw the beaver in the beaver exhibit at the Detroit
Yeah.
Zoo because they're
Yeah.
nocturnal and it's at night. And so we were like, holy, this thing was huge. And like everybody was crowded around and we're all taking pictures of him because usually you just see up on the monitor like the little video of them in their indoor habitat thing, just sleeping and stuff. But yeah, that was a lot of fun to be able to see him. But like we also went to the zoo as just like a zoo trip beforehand as well. And fun fact, if you go to the zoo in the winter, animals are more likely to be active, unless they're ones that had to be specifically indoors, like the rhinos. Because rhinos and giraffes, because it's so cold out, or just cold in general, they're trying to stay active. So it's a lot of fun, and we're going again this year at some point. But a lot of times my family and I will also go drive around, usually on Christmas Eve, and look at all the lights that people have put up. So we'll drive into different neighborhoods and just like drive around and look. We also go to the Christmas Eve service, which this year is a little bit different, because usually our Christmas Eve services were 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock, or like 6 and 9 at one point. But this year we're doing it at 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock. So like the kids service is at 4 and it's going to be a lot more kid oriented. And then the traditional Christmas Eve service is at 6, which is really nice as a person who does not finish wrapping things until like 4 o'clock in the morning on Christmas. And I'm the first person to get up on Christmas, so that's always a great time.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, and then also Christmas movies like The Grinch is always a fan favorite. Um, we have to be careful which Grinch we show though, because my nieces are 8 and 4. We can't show the Jim Carrey version.
Yeah, I never really liked that
Um,
in the first place. I much prefer the cartoon version, not the Illumination one, but the old
the old one.
1960s one, the old one voiced by Boris Karloff. That one's always
See,
been my favorite.
I liked the new one because it was kind of kooky and fun, and I don't know, gave more interaction with the Who's, and so
Mhm,
like you could see his annoyance with
mhm.
how they acted and everything. Um, which fun fact, someone on TikTok said that the Grinch more resembles the Who's from Horton Hears a Who
Mhm.
than he does in How the Grinch Stole Christmas. So he's supposed to be on a different pollen like particle,
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, there are
which
different
I found really
subspecies of
interesting.
who's, which I think is kind of funny. Yeah.
Yeah. But also that brings it to, how do Who's get onto the proper pollen particle, but that's, another someone needs to make a video of that because, we can't get that from Dr. Seuss, so we need like someone to create a story, and I'm not gonna do it because I have too many other writing things that I have going on.
Mhm.
Um, but how do Who's get to their specific Whovilles, and do the Whovilles know about the other Whovilles? And you know,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
but
But
uh,
I have a couple more
yeah.
memories. I mean, I just thought of this. There was this one great memory. It was back in like when the Wii just came out, and I think it was like 2009, 2010. And I was always the first person to get up for Christmas. I'd be getting up at like 3 a.m. And my dad and my mom used to put stockings at the end of our beds. So they fill them like with candy canes. And this one year I got this super cute plush Snoopy, like you push on his feet and he'd dance around for you. Um, and that Christmas was really special because we had a basement in our old house, and we totally decked it out with like video game systems and stuff as the years went by. But like, um, we had just moved into that house around that time when my dad got that. When he did this, and he had a ribbon going all the way going down the staircase and leading into the basement staircase, and to the ribbon was the Wii that he bought for me and my brother with Mario Galaxy and Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga with it. And it was during Christmas break where my dad took a couple days off work just to play those games with us, and I love that memory so much. It's like one of the definitive Christmas memories that I hold. And Christmas has always been like, it's a weird holiday for me now that I'm away from family, but my mom actually passed away a couple weeks after Christmas. So December and January is sort of hard for us, for me and my family, because that holiday will always be tied to my mom's death. And during that Christmas when she passed away, that Christmas in 2020, like we tried everything to make her the most comfortable as she could be. And we did a really good job. I think I have to give my dad the pat on the back for that Christmas, because he really did try everything and make the most of it. And me and my brother just went, like, there were some really good memories tied to that too. Like, I went all out for my brother. I spent like $500 on him for like Christmas gifts, because I knew what was coming for our family, like my mom passing away. And so I wanted to make Reese's Christmas super special. And my dad got like a Galaga arcade machine for his birthday, because her birthday's January 3rd. And that was like his part Christmas, part birthday gift. And that was super cool, because in his youth, he was always like a master at Galaga. And my brother got a Centipede arcade machine. And like, we just went all out for each other. But, I always love Christmas, but like sometimes this holiday makes you just miss my family sometimes. And I can't wait. As soon as this episode comes out, I mean, I'll be on vacation with my family in Mexico and Cancun. So that's going to be real fun. but I always love this holiday, and I always try my best to get like gifts for everybody around around in my circle of people, because I think that nobody should go with Christmas without love or presents or just being acknowledged. And I always make sure that I acknowledge everyone in my life, that I love and care for them on this holiday. I just think it's like one of those times where if you don't get to do it during the year, you can at least do it now, because Christmas is about spending time with the ones that you love. And like, of course, the presents are great. I'm not gonna lie and say I don't enjoy getting presents, but it's mostly about the friends and family that you spend it with. And I deeply enjoy this holiday.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I guess that kind of leads into my next question then, which kind of ties back to the Santa Claus series, both movies and TV show. But so a lot of people think that Christmas spirit is, outdoing each other for the best Christmas present. But I think there's more to it. I mean, that can be part of it. I don't think that's the whole point. But so what exactly, and you touched on this a little bit, but what exactly is the Christmas spirit?
I
Like, what
mean,
does it mean to be in the Christmas spirit?
I have two answers for this question. The physical embodiment of the Christmas spirit was during around this time, my dad would go around, like, I still don't even know what kind of essence it was, but he'd go around spraying this like Christmas tree spray. And my dad, whenever he sprayed it, like when me and my brother were like on Christmas vacation, we spent like 12 hours in the basement. Like we'd come upstairs for first time for the night, and he'd spray this stuff, and he's like, oh, the Christmas spirit is near you guys, and Christmas is coming in, and get me and my brother so excited. I still don't know what that essence is, but that whenever I smell that smell, it just like it hits me, and I'm like, that's when Christmas time is here. But as for like the metaphorical version, I think the Christmas spirit is just, being a happy person and being thankful for everything you have in your life, all the opportunities that are given to you, and all the people that surround you, and the people that you give out love to and they give you love back. I think that is the Christmas spirit.
Yeah. I think you touched on it a little bit with your metaphorical answer. Because I always get the question from people outside of Christianity, what does Santa have to do with Christ? With the baby being born. Okay, well, technically, Jesus would have been born in like a March time instead of December because it was during a census. But traditional people, white people way of moving everything around and kind of distorting it a little bit, let's put it in December. But and I know that there are also pagan aspects to it of like things that we took from pagan celebrating of, I think it's Yule instead of Christmas. But things like, decorating the Christmas tree was to ward off evil spirits and stuff. But I like now that it's more about like the decorating the tree for some people is specifically aesthetically pleasing, which everybody each to their own. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. But for like my family, all of the ornaments are significant to someone or something. So we've got things that are pictures of me and my sisters from when we were little, from like school pictures, but like, we made these things in school and now it's there. Um, I have my ornaments of usually like dogs, Stitch, Harry Potter. Um, I got my trumpets going. And then my family has other musical instruments because we are a very musical family. Um, but then going back to like thinking about the religion, it's also part of like that staying humble and giving to others, like you were saying. And I think a big part of that is like, for me, I mean, I do try and find like the perfect gift. I don't try and go and spend a ton of money to outdo someone. But like the past couple of years, there was one year that I had written a poem and then just posted it to Facebook, and my aunt actually printed it out and like framed it for everybody, because it was about my family and stuff. And then another year, like I made a plate, that was, because we've lost people in my family too, and so it's, hey, like, yeah, they're gone, but they're still here in spirit. Um, because like, and I know there's other holidays to touch on this more, but I really think with Christmas, especially when you're around family, whether it's your found family or your biological family, it's about spreading that love. And so the people that aren't with you, whether physically because they live in a different state, or physically because they've passed on, they're still there because that love is so strong.
Mhm.
If any of that made sense whatsoever. Kind of rambled a bit, but yeah, so I definitely think the Christmas spirit is about love, um, and like being with people.
Yeah.
And I think it's more than Thanksgiving. Like I know we talked about it in Thanksgiving, like being with people, especially the ones you love, but I think Christmas holds a different type of love. Like it's the appreciation of each other and being able to be with each other versus being thankful you have these people in your life.
Mhm.
So, excuse me. Well, so that is, unless you have anything else you want to add,
Oh
Carter.
no, I'm good.
Okay, that is all that we have for our last episode of this season of Raving Geeks. But before we go, we would like to give you some final recommendations to make it through our Christmas break with family, not having school if you are finishing finals, if you're lucky enough to have days off from work, to get you through those days of not having anything to do and just sitting on the couch being a couch potato. So Carter, what recommendations do you have for us?
This movie actually involves getting off the couch. Please go see David Harbour's Violent Night. It's such a fun Christmas movie, and I really do consider it a new Christmas classic. It's literally Home Alone and Die Hard mashed together with Santa Claus. But for all the people who don't want to go to the theaters for Christmas, watch the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. It's so fun. That's what's actually behind me right now. It's such a great holiday special, and there's a really big Marvel revelation that happens that makes sense to like the Christmas theme, but it also makes sense to the plot. And it was so obvious in the in Guardians Volume 2, and I just never acknowledged it. And then revisit all the Christmas classics like Christmas Story, Christmas Vacation, Home Alone. Visit them all and grab your loved ones together and just enjoy the season.
Well, I say if we finally get snow, which they keep predicting that we're gonna get it. At least it hasn't hit me fully yet in Novi. But I'd say go out, and I know if you're in the Metro Detroit area, Kensington Park, Metro Park, you can go, you take birdseed and stand on some of the trails with the birdseed in your hand. Birds will actually come down, land on your hand, and take birdseed, which is super fun and cool. It's kind of a weird feeling like their little feet on your fingers because you're like, wait, that's what it feels like. But yeah, it's really fun to do that. Make Christmas forts, make snowmen, have snowball fights, go sledding, skiing, snowboarding, whatever you do in winter with the snow. Um, or if you're like Carter, go find someplace warm that has a beach and lay out in the warm sun.
Yeah.
But as far as like just binging things, I highly recommend the Santa Clauses, all three of the movies, the TV show. Um, my one non-Christmas thing is the TV show Rizzoli and Isles, which I don't know if it's still on Hulu or not, but I know it's on HBO Max. I'm sure you can find it on Amazon Prime. You might need to either rent or buy it there, but and then the movie that the previous hosts and I dubbed the Harry Potter Christmas special, Die Hard, the first Die Hard movie, because he is running around a tower being chased by Severus Snape at Christmas. And while oh my gosh, what's his name? Yeah, the guy who plays Die Hard.
Oh, Bruce Willis.
Thank you, Bruce Willis. He says it's just a Die Hard movie. It's not a Christmas movie. It's the Harry Potter Christmas special. It's, it's great. Any of that series, honestly. I think my favorite is A Good Day to Die Hard, where you get his son in there.
Mhm.
But yeah, those are what I suggest. I always suggest also going to your local library and borrowing a couple books that you've had on your to read list but haven't been able to read because you're so busy. Curl up with some hot cocoa, a blanket, your pets, just read through a bunch of books. Finish off those New Year's resolutions that were, oh, I'm gonna read a book a month or whatever, just do it in 12 days of Christmas. There you go, book a day. Anyways, so we will see you all again next semester for our new season of Raving Geeks. But while we are gone, you guys can find us on Twitter and Facebook at Raving Geeks, and you can follow us on TikTok at Raving Geeks. You can comment on our videos, send us messages, tell us what you think we should talk about next semester. And also next semester will be my last season with the Geeks. So I will be slowly handing the reins over to Carter. But yeah, so we're excited to see you all again next semester. So as always, I've been Hope Goodearl along with my co-host.
Carter Sally.
We hope you all have a great weeky and a great end of year at whatever holiday you celebrate and the New Year's. And stay geeky, everyone. See ya.
See you guys later.